Hello and welcome to Part B of Module 1. Here we're looking at the digital finance ecosystem. Now, to help understand the concept of ecosystem, I need you to think about value chains. Now, you should remember your organizational value chains. We cover them off in subjects such as strategic management accounting. And the idea within the organization of sequences of activities. So sales. For sales to happen, you make a sale and you've got inbound logistics, raw materials have to come in, operations, production. Then you make the product, you ship the product, outbound logistics, and any after sales service. And then in the background, there's people like us, the accountants, the IT people, human resources, governance, management. That's the organizational value chain traditionally. It's linear. It follows a straight line. Then that's within the organization. Now we look outside at the industry value chain. So somewhere, someone is producing the raw materials, someone is digging and producing those iron ore to create steel, as an example, preparing those components, so primary manufacturing, then fabricating and making the parts that we can then assemble together to make a product. Then there's a distributor and a retailer. So a specific example, coffee beans are grown. So someone has to grow them. That's right back at the very beginning, the raw materials. So someone plants and grows the coffee beans, and then they get harvested. Someone has to roast them. A different one has to extract, cool, concentrate, dry, and that's how you will make instant coffee. Now that can happen in one organization that is integrated across the value chain or throughout the value chain. To get really specific, we can actually look at which part of the industry value chain has the most profits. And you can see a wet processor makes 4 cents a pound or a kilogram. The trader, the processor, and if you have a look, the best one to be at is the roaster making $1.27 or the retailer $1.10. Some of these people in the value chain do not make very much money. So that's a very linear process. But what we're seeing in Module 2 is a discussion about Module 1, Part B is ecosystems. So the Apple ecosystem is a good example. The Android system is another one. There are various systems out there. But what it shows you is it's not linear. There's a whole bunch of factors, each of them encouraging the other. So iPods, for example, if you have one, if you can remember back that far, were music storage devices. But the reason why they were so powerful was they plugged into the iTunes store, which gave you access. And then iTunes also has access to software, and then there's Macs, and then there's phones, TV, a fully integrated community where once you're in that ecosystem, everything else works more smoothly. So you can transfer data from your phone to your PC. It goes into the cloud. There's backup, there's storage, there's photos are syncing. All of these great technologies interrelate. And that's the idea of an ecosystem concept. So if you have that in your mind as you do Part B, you'll find things a bit easier. In each section, we look at the objectives, and you'll notice most obviously objective 2 here, analyze the complexity associated with practical implementation. And we're looking at the impact on the finance ecosystem. So we're going to look at the digital finance ecosystem and other sub-ecosystems as well in this section. And Part B, ecosystem, we've looked at the landscape, now the ecosystem. Part C, we'll dive into fintech, and Part D is more about project management and successful implementation. So section 1.4, the digital ecosystem. Now, key components of this ecosystem include customers and suppliers. Now that's sort of that linear value chain mindset, but we need a dynamic integration, and it's broader than that. So we bring in tools, systems, different departments, and external partners. So you can see it's a more holistic situation rather than a linear chain. Some key terminology here, it's distributed, it's adaptive, it's socio-technical. And that might be the first time you've heard those terms, that's all right. We can get cooperative situations where organizations sit independently but work together cooperatively. Or we can have collaborative, which is where organizations are actually interdependent. They need each other for success and survival. So there's a lot of terms. Even in just one page, you come across 10 or 15 new words. So what should you be doing here as part of your study? Put it into an Excel spreadsheet. Put the page number down. Don't just write the definition. Put it in your own words. Find an example. Look at a YouTube clip if you need to find out a little bit more. But learn what these things mean. And then each week, go back and read through your index. You're not going to use that index in your exam. By the time you get to your exam, you're going to know each of these concepts incredibly well. but this is how you build up the knowledge in your mind to successfully master the materials. So the three main components of the digital ecosystem: software, data, and then the underlying infrastructure, the ICT infrastructure. Now, it's very hard to conceptualize that sort of big picture theory. So let's look at some practical examples. First of all, if you've got an Apple device and you've been to the App Store, that's a software ecosystem. All of these different developers invent programs, and then they all go to the App Store, so they're easy to find. You don't have to go and search all 20 different websites to try and find a provider. They're all there, ranked and scored, and all the developers all get to develop on one platform. Now, it doesn't have to be an Apple, it can be Android, however it might be. So that is a software ecosystem. Now, a data-oriented system is where the data pulls together, and something like Netflix, where they give you recommendations. You like this, so here's the next. Here are all the movies ranked like this, so people who like this do this. The same thing happens with books. If you like this book, you'll like this. If you like this travel destination, you'll like this. So that's a data-oriented system. And then someone has to make the internet work and make the broader systems around the world. So ICT infrastructure. You may never heard of DECIX, Apollo Internet Exchange, based in Europe, but somewhere the servers all have to plug in and the pipes have to run the data to and from different countries all the way down the line to each of us doing our work. So the characteristics of an ecosystem, 4 key ones: customer-centered. And I do laugh at this one sometimes, because if you put the customer first, amazing, fantastic, quick, efficient. Something as simple as single-click pay that Amazon patented and others have used. So let's make it easy for the customer. They don't have to key in details all the time. They don't have to waste time. They don't have to give it to someone over the phone. Click, pay, faster, more efficient, great customer experience. But I want you to think about, when was the last time you rang somewhere and they said, "Oh, your call is so important to us, we're going to put you on hold." So sadly, a lot of organizations use digital and technology to put your call on hold, to make you work through a system, to route you overseas, and they don't actually put the customer first. They put the organizational structures and systems first. They put profitability first, but they don't really put the customer first. So it can be amazing, but it often leads to frustration and anger. It's also dynamic, it's data-driven and automated. Now, dynamic data-driven, these types of activities generating faster, better products, more efficiency and things are not new, but we can accelerate them in the digital finance realm. So how do we create and deliver value? Now, this is very much like strategic management accounting. Well, sell more stuff, right? Increase your sales. Now, 2 ways of doing that: sell more product or increase the price. Combine the two together. Increase your return on investment. One way of doing that: increase the price. Another way: reduce your costs by being more efficient. And grab new revenue sources. When you get to global strategy and leadership, exactly this. So sell more to your current customers and then grow your markets and add new customers. So that's Ansoff's matrix. You'll be exploring that. A good example of growing revenue sources: Target. They track what web pages you're at. They grab lots of data all about you. And every time you buy or scan and you pay with a store card, they know what's going on. So one area they're very good at, for example, is pregnancy prediction scores based on what you eat, the products you buy. And most obviously, when people want to get pregnant, for example, if they've been drinking a lot, they might stop drinking. So that's a key indicator. They might also start buying folate, because folate is very good for preventing certain issues during pregnancy. So you analyze the types of products they buy, and they can actually figure out your due date. A little bit scary. They might know it before you. And a great example of this at the personal scale is when the teenage daughter gets sent coupons for baby products, which is kind of awkward when the father doesn't know. And the daughter, I don't think, even knew at this point in time. So amazing data can really give insights. It can know things before you even know them. Supposedly on Facebook, people can know when your relationship's breaking down even before you do, based on the algorithms, based on the interactions you have, the postings, the pictures, everything else like that. So in this case, Target was correct and the father didn't know. So how do you increase sales? Well, they're grabbing data, they're being agile, and they're promoting and pushing more. And in the study guide, it talks about Target generating $1 billion worth of extra sales through this targeted understanding of its users. So other ways of creating, delivering value, reducing risk through better data analysis, making sure that any new strategy or project you follow is more likely to be successful, and faster adoption of technology. So to help understand an ecosystem in more detail, example 1.4 talks about Amazon and all the different bits and pieces that Amazon actually is. As you started off as just an online bookseller, but fascinating, what happens is from online bookselling, that retail arm, they moved on to doing things like, well, if they need to have a massive warehouse, they may as well help other people sell their products out of that warehouse. And then they needed huge computer systems. So they think, well, we're really good at computer systems. We may as well help others. So anyone else who needs cloud-based computer systems, will rent some of our cloud space to them as well. And so it just grows and grows. And then they get to the payments and lending section, quite extraordinary. So you may or may not have used Alexa. And interestingly, it's not the first type of virtual assistant. It's not even the best technology, but what makes it work so well is that it's integrated into the retail AWS, the Prime, that everything else that's happening, which makes it one more powerful step at combining everything together, just like we looked at that Apple ecosystem earlier. So they have lots of partners. They're spread across multiple continents, doing huge amounts of work across many, many industries. And one of the really interesting things about Amazon now, and this will tie in more with digital finance, is how they are kind of, I'm going to call it, coming like a bank. So when you do work with Amazon, in the past, you just consume through them. But now they're like, well, hang on, if you put money into Amazon Cash, you can then use that to not only buy Amazon products, but you can use that cash elsewhere. Now, for the unbanked, for the people who don't have so much financial access, this is another way into the electronic banking system. So there's Amazon Cash, then there's Amazon Pay, and also there's inventory lending. So we saw this in part A. One of the digital finance areas is factoring or invoice lending. And so people who are selling via Amazon can even borrow money and finance their business. And then, of course, Amazon knows all your trading data, so they can see if you're worth lending to or not. So it's kind of scary, but amazingly powerful as well. So if you want to evaluate a digital ecosystem and you want to look at how your organization's going, first ask, how are we using our technology? Now, what I see in practical experience is some organizations have no technology. They're pretty inefficient, bit sluggish, but at least they know what they know. Others go and pay for lots of technology, but never really take the time to implement it properly and learn it inside out. A good example, some major organizations who use Salesforce, incredibly powerful tool, but often not fully implemented. We're always too busy. So how well do you actually use the tech? Does it give consistent customer experience, or does it leave people waiting on the line, being told that their call is important? How do employees and departments engage? And this is that key point I mentioned a moment ago, linking back to item 1. You can have great software, but is anyone actually using it? And then what software and data tools need to be implemented? So within these 4 questions, if we ask and probe, we can then start figuring out what a good digital ecosystem will look like. And when you get to part D of module 1, it's how do we properly implement this and deal with change? So I hope you found that tour of the first section of part B helpful. And I hope you find the reading clearer and more helpful as well. Go and search for, if it talks about the Apple ecosystem or the Amazon ecosystem, there's great short videos out there. Just do a YouTube search or a Google search, and they will help you understand it more clearly than before. All right. Thank you.